Hello and welcome, history buffs and geopolitical enthusiasts. Today we're diving deep into a pivotal moment that redrew the map of South Asia, the 1971 war between India and Pakistan. This wasn't just a conflict, it was a watershed event that birthed a new nation and left an indelible mark on the region's history. We'll explore why this war happened, how it unfolded on the battlefields, and what its lasting legacy is. So, if you're ready to understand the forces that shaped modern South Asia, stick around. You won't want to miss this. To truly grasp the 1971 war, we need to go back to the partition of 1947. After independence, Pakistan was created as a unique country, split into two geographically separate wings, West Pakistan and East Pakistan, which we now know as Bangladesh. Over 1,600 kilometers of Indian territory lay between them. This physical distance was just the beginning of their differences. The two wings were worlds apart in language, culture, and ethnicity. East Pakistan spoke Bengali, while West Pakistan was dominated by Urdu and Punjabi speakers. Despite having the majority of the country's population, East Pakistan was consistently marginalized. Political and economic power was heavily concentrated in West Pakistan. The military and civil bureaucracy were overwhelmingly dominated by West Pakistanis. This created a growing sense of alienation and resentment among the Bengali population in the East. They felt like second-class citizens in their own country, their resources exploited for the benefit of the Western wing while their own development was neglected. This simmering discontent set the stage for a political explosion. The boiling point was reached in 1970. Pakistan held its first ever general elections, and the results were a political earthquake. In East Pakistan, Sheikh Mujibur Rahman's Awami League, which championed Bengali rights and autonomy, won a landslide victory. They secured an absolute majority of seats in the National Assembly. According to democratic principles, Sheikh Mujibur Rahman should have become the Prime Minister of all of Pakistan. However, the political elite in West Pakistan, led by Zulfikar Ali Bhutto and the military junta under General Yahya Khan, were unwilling to hand over power to a Bengali nationalist. Instead of a smooth transfer of power, they stalled. Negotiations began, but they were really a delay tactic. The military leadership in West Pakistan feared that an Awami League government would fundamentally alter the power structure of the country. This refusal to honor the democratic mandate of the people was the final straw for East Pakistan. The delay turned hope into fury, and the political crisis spiraled out of control. In March 1971, the situation escalated dramatically when it became clear that power would not be transferred. Massive protests and a civil disobedience movement erupted across East Pakistan. The Pakistani military responded with brutal force. On the night of March 25, they launched Operation Searchlight, a violent crackdown aimed at crushing the Bengali nationalist movement. This marked the beginning of what would become the Bangladesh Liberation War and a horrific genocide. The military's actions led to widespread atrocities. Intellectuals, students, and political activists were targeted and killed. As the violence spread, a massive humanitarian crisis unfolded. Millions of terrified refugees, mostly Hindus but also Muslims, fled their homes and poured across the border into India. This massive influx of people placed an immense strain on India's resources and created a volatile situation along its eastern border. India couldn't remain a silent spectator. Initially, it provided humanitarian aid to the refugees, but as the crisis deepened, India began to actively support the Bengali cause. It provided sanctuary, training, and arms to the Mukti Bahini, the Bengali guerrilla army fighting for independence. The conflict in East Pakistan was now directly impacting India's security and stability. Tensions between India and Pakistan soared, and the path to a full-scale war became almost inevitable. The official start of the war came on December 3, 1971. In a preemptive move, the Pakistan Air Force launched surprise airstrikes on several Indian airfields in the west, mirroring a strategy used by Israel in the 1967 Six-Day War. However, India was prepared. Indian Prime Minister Indira Gandhi addressed the nation that very night, officially declaring that India was at war with Pakistan. The conflict was now being fought on two distinct fronts, the Eastern Front in East Pakistan and the Western Front along the India-West Pakistan border. The Eastern Front was where the main action took place. The Indian military strategy was brilliant and decisive. It was a classic blitzkrieg or lightning war. The Indian Army, working in close coordination with the Mukti Bahini, launched a multi-pronged invasion of East Pakistan. The goal was simple, a swift advance to capture the capital, Dhaka, and force a surrender before any international pressure could lead to a ceasefire. The Pakistani forces in the east were at a severe disadvantage. They were surrounded thousands of kilometers away from their main base in West Pakistan. Their supply lines were cut off by the Indian Navy's blockade of the Bay of Bengal and the Indian Air Force's total dominance of the skies. They also faced a hostile local population that actively supported the Indian forces and the Mukti Bahini. Morale was low, and they were fighting a losing battle from day one. The Indian Army's advance was incredibly rapid, using bypass tactics to avoid heavily fortified Pakistani positions. They raced towards Dhaka. The fighting was intense, but the momentum was entirely with the Indian and Bengali forces. Within a mere 13 days, a shockingly short period for a modern war, Indian troops stood at the gates of Dhaka. The city was surrounded, and the Pakistani military command knew that any further resistance was futile. The climax of the war arrived on December 16, 1971, at the Ramna racecourse in Dhaka, in front of thousands of jubilant Bengalis. The commander of the Pakistani forces in the east, Lieutenant General A.A.K. Niazi, signed the official instrument of surrender. He handed over his revolver to the Indian commander, Lieutenant General Jagit Singh Arora. Over 93,000 Pakistani soldiers became prisoners of war. This remains one of the largest military surrenders in history since World War II. The war on the Eastern Front was over. Meanwhile, on the Western Front, the nature of the fighting was very different. Here the conflict was more of a stalemate. The battles were primarily concentrated along the international border in Punjab and in the disputed territory of Kashmir. Both the Indian and Pakistani armies launched major ground offensives, supported by their air forces and navies. There were significant tank battles, like the Battle of Langawala, and intense fighting for strategic positions. However, neither side was able to achieve a decisive breakthrough. The forces were more evenly matched, and the terrain was more familiar to the defenders. While there were tactical victories and losses for both India and Pakistan, the war on the Western Front did not significantly alter the strategic balance. The real outcome of the 1971 war had already been decided in the East. Once Dhaka fell and the Pakistani forces there surrendered, the fighting on the Western Front also came to an end. The results of the 1971 war were profound and transformative. The most significant outcome was the birth of a new nation. East Pakistan ceased to exist, and in its place, the independent, sovereign state of Bangladesh was established. The dream of a united Bengali nation was finally realized, but at a terrible human cost. For Pakistan, the war was a catastrophic defeat. It was not just a military loss, it was a deep psychological and political blow. The country was dismembered, losing more than half its population and a significant part of its territory. The two-nation theory, which was the ideological foundation of Pakistan, was severely challenged. For India, the war was a resounding victory. It was seen as a triumph of its military prowess and its political stand. India had successfully managed a massive refugee crisis, liberated a nation from oppression, and decisively defeated its main rival. The victory established India as the undisputed dominant power in South Asia. The war completely changed the geopolitical dynamics of the region, creating a new balance of power that continues to this day. The 1971 war teaches us a powerful lesson. It demonstrates that military force and oppression cannot permanently suppress the will of a people demanding their rights and justice. Political problems require political solutions, based on dialogue, respect, and fairness. When democratic verdicts are ignored and a population is marginalized, it inevitably leads to conflict and tragedy. The 1971 war was a painful and complex historical event, a story of oppression, liberation, victory, and defeat. Its echoes are still felt across South Asia today, in the politics and relationships between India, Pakistan, and Bangladesh. Understanding this war is crucial to understanding the world we live in. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive into history. If you found this video insightful and want to explore more such pivotal historical events, please show your support by hitting the like button, subscribing to our channel, and dropping a comment below with your thoughts or suggestions for future topics. We love hearing from you. Thanks again, and see you in the next video.